Okay, we are back live again, and for some reason, Yoli is unable to pop on. So what I'm going to do is, can you guys see me? If anyone can comment, because right now I'm showing zero people here. So what I want to try to do is invite her. You know what? I'm going to just invite certain people and see if they are able to see it. Okay, so I've invited Alexis, I've invited certain people, and I am going to wait to see if I see you. For some reason, I don't see anyone watching live, and Yoli was saying, oh, there's Jesslyn. I have one person, thank you. I don't see Yoli watching me, and the only way for me to have her appear is for her to actually be here. So Yoli, if you can say a comment, I'm going to wave to Deslin. And Yoli, if you're able to just say something like I'm here, you will pop up and I will click on to join. Aloha Deslin. For some reason we are having technical difficulties and my guest is not able to log on. So Yoli, if you're watching, yes, don't you just love how life works? And this is where, as parents, we feel, right? Our globe, our world is in chaos. So this is what's happening to me right now. We planned this. This is the second week in a row that I don't see my guests, so I can't invite them. So, Yoli, if you can actually say something, can you guys do me a favor and just say something, just in the chat, say something so I can see if people are watching. And for some reason, I don't see anyone here. It's just you, Deslin, and let me just see. You know what? Why don't we just go on and we'll figure this out. If Yoli pops on, I really wanted you to hear what she had to say, but I will just share what we talked about, which is how we can deal with the stress and the uncertainty. Oh, she's here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Deslin, Yoli just said maybe Deslin can help me log on. So what I want to do is, yeah, for some reason I see her, but Deslin, I can't invite her. So let me just try one more time. Add viewers. I'm going to, please be patient. Yeah, it says that I invited her, and for some reason, she is just not popping up. Just like how the teachers are not guaranteeing that they might be in the classroom, right? They might not. And so Yoli, for some reason, is... yeah, I just don't know. I'm going to continue with broadcasting. Oh, I see Alexis. Alexis, can we try an experiment and have you log on? I mean, be here with me. Do you have a few minutes? Because for some reason I can't, I see Yoli's comments, but when I click on it, I am unable to invite her. So just bear with me with this, these technical difficulties, which is what the teachers and students, right, will be going through, are going through. If you are a parent who suffered through the fourth quarter pandemonium, right? We had a pandemic, plus we had distance learning challenges. Wait, let me just see. I'm going to ask Alexis if she can pop on, and I'm going to add her and see what happens. So pop up, it says adding, and we just have to watch me.
Sorry, my beautiful.
Hey, there she is. I don't know, for some reason. So this is Alexis, who was supposed to be on last Wednesday. So now I'm having PTSD because I'm trying to log I'm trying to have my cousin. Gotta love this internet. You gotta love how life is what it is.
It is what it is. That's fine.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But now that I have you, we will.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about how parents can deal with the unknown, with the unpredictability. And I'm sure Yoli and I can do something later, maybe after this Facebook Live is done. But now that we have Alexis, introduce yourself in this few minutes. This is totally impromptu, and I appreciate you in the middle of your work day.
Sure, no problem.
Popping up.
Oh gosh.
So you're a mom of 2 adult children.
Well, one adult and one he thinks is an adult. By 15.
I mean, yes,
yeah,
a teenager.
yeah. He lives his own life and does his own thing pretty much. So yeah, they start earlier these days, just doing their own thing. And he's a YouTuber, so he's always on YouTube learning something or gaming with his friends. He's just learning. He's learning Korean on his own, and he's learning how to skateboard with the dad. So once he gets his hands on something, because I don't know if it's the boy thing, he will not let it go until he's like an expert in it. And so
what I love what you just shared,
Yeah.
I love what you just shared, that we do not have to rely on teachers and a classroom setting to learn, because when you think about it, how much did your children learn in the classroom? Like a lot of times we were complaining that the teachers weren't really teaching right. Are they teaching according to the child's primary learning style? Are there disruptions in the classroom? Were there more behavior problems than academic learning opportunities? But I think parents, all of us are like, well, what are we going to do if they're stuck at home? How do we teach? Or how do we deal with the stress? So do you have any, like, your own does Texas know how they're going to handle the back to school?
Well, the school he's going to is very, in fact, I think they got a technology certificate and had to have so many percentage of the teachers go to class to learn technology in the classroom. So these kids are pretty up to speed. He was doing it in middle school already. So he just finished his freshman year in high school, and he didn't have a problem doing anything with Google Classroom and posting on Google Docs. These kids are very savvy, and if they don't know, they can YouTube it. It's really interesting how they can self-teach and not skip a beat. Not skip a beat. And of course, as parents, I say, what, I'm the parent, so I can ask you how you're doing with class, and you can't get mad, because that's my parent hat. so we have clear lines of communication. But he goes, Mom, I'm already done. Mom, I'm already done. So I just say, okay, if I have something from the teacher that he emails me, then I'm gonna wake you up, because he has a different schedule. Then he gets all his work done ahead of time, and then he can have a weird, like, wake up at midnight and do whatever he wants. So, oh, look, your friend Yoli's on the phone.
Well, I think the challenge is, though, like for here, there's so many technical challenges. I've had students and I'm working with them, and it says see the attached download, and there is no attachment. Or the teachers are giving assignments, and they're saying, if you don't know, watch this YouTube video on how to convert fractions into decimals. So it's a lot of, I think teachers can't really, there's like so many different questions, and they're trying their best to utilize resources. I just say, you know what, you don't have to watch a video. We will go over, how to do fractions, or how to do quadratic formula, or whatever it is. But I think if you're a child and you're 7, or you're even, no matter what age you are, and you're not really tech savvy, and it makes you, it's anxiety. A lot of my students are like, oh no, we're gonna have to do what we just did. And in Hawaii, you're going to be in the classroom, some of them just 1 day a week, and you will sit there, and then the math teacher will come in. Then the social studies teacher will come in, Then the science teacher will come in, and there will be no electives taught. Because for PE, for art, for band, so these parents are thinking, wait a minute, I want my child to be a part of, like, ceramics class. What if you're in auto shop? What if you want, certain electives? And so I think today's Facebook Live is to deal with the unknown, and just look at it as an opportunity, to change the way that we used to learn, and welcome the fact that we might not know, and to teach kids that, you know, it is scary. We
Mhm.
don't know. It sounds like, I don't know if Texas is just, you know, I think a lot of times people in Hawaii feel that on the mainland, you know, they're more advanced, they're teaching,
It
but
is.
now I'm finding out that, right, and then I'm finding out like the teacher, people in California, right, all long, I mean, I keep saying long distance learning, it's all distance learning.
Mhm.
And how do you do it if you're a parent who says, you know what, I don't want to handle technical difficulties. I don't want this distance learning. I want my kid in the classroom all the time. And then you have the other
Mhm.
aspect where I don't want my child to be in a classroom where they might increase the chances, right, of contact. I mean, right? What if they get COVID because the teacher is you have so many variables that we don't know
Exactly.
how to handle it. So today's thing is not necessarily handling, you know, like the educational stress, but I know you as a coach and as someone who, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you're a mom, you're everything. How do you deal with just the unknown and the stress? I mean, this thing right now, major stress for me. I was like, okay, please let last week not repeat. And it repeated, but I have you on. So it's,
I should always be
you
ready
know, it's
on
like
Wednesdays
accentuate
for
the
you.
positive.
You know. I should always be ready for you.
Sorry, what did you say?
I should always be
Yeah,
ready for you.
it's like, hey, Alexis, or
I'm
they're
like,
like,
oh my gosh,
Declan,
I'm
oh,
just,
Bozu, he
I
might like
just
pop on.
brushed my
You know what?
hair. I
Let me
just,
try this because
oh my
I
God.
see a camera and I see Yoli, my guest.
Yeah.
So you want to try it? Yeah.
He wants to
So
try
I'm
to
gonna,
come
you know
on.
what? I don't know if I. Let's try this. I'm gonna see if I can get her on, and I don't know if I have her on. Will you go away? Because I heard that we can actually have more than one, but if you go away,
I think
oh,
you,
you know what? I think I can only have one guest.
so you can let me go.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm going to say bye right now and see if this works because now I have you online and I have her online. So hopefully, fingers crossed. But thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for popping in.
Anytime,
Okay,
girlfriend.
bye. Okay, bye. Okay, bring Yoli on. I think it might be working, guys. It says adding, and we might have figured it out. It says connecting. Oh my gosh, the technology gods have blessed us with Yoli Gonzales present. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Has this been a learn? Yep, I can hear you very clearly, and this is
Okay.
a perfect opportunity. What we just did has been quite a opportunity to deal with stress, and I think it's a perfect segue into, you know how it's supposed to start at 9:30. Well, those
Right.
of you who are watching, this was a 19-minute, very stressful Facebook Live.
Such is life, huh?
So Yoli,
Yeah.
such is life. So I want you to share with us how parents can handle stress, unpredictability, fear, anger. Some are feeling anger. Some are feeling like we have no idea what's going on. Any suggestions on how parents can deal with that?
Yes. Thank you first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me in this conversation. We're all experiencing this, and so it's not something that is particular to a person. And one of the things I think that's important for us when we're thinking about overwhelming stress is to really think about, well, what kind of stress is it? Is it stress where it makes you immobile, where you can't move? Is it stress that it's temporary? We have to realize that whatever we're going through right now is really temporary. And so I guess the first advice I would give people is that, yes, this is a stressful situation, but you know what? This too will pass, and we can overcome it, like you were saying. And one of the things that when I talk about stress with other people, I have them delve into defining what that stress is about. Is it stress because you're denying the fact that this is happening? Is it stress because you're angry and outraged because you've lost control over your life? Are you stressed out because you're feeling depressed and powerless and hopeless? Or are you actually using the good stress, which is accepting what's happening right now and allowing it to build it or to plant a seed within yourself so that you can find more possibilities for a better future. And I think that, going inside and feeling your body, because that's where all the stress comes from. Our mind and our body are connected. And so really, paying attention to where in my body do I feel it? Do I feel it in my head? Do I feel it in my heart? Do I feel it in my tummy? Most of the times I feel it in my tummy because my tummy is like a,
Mhm.
hungry giant and it just wants to eat and eat. And so it's just looking at, stress is not bad. We look at stress as being a really
Mhm.
bad thing, but really stress can be a very positive thing. And so the first thing I think I'd like people to understand is that one, everybody's going through this, and so you're not unique. We're all going through this together. Number two, we've lost control. Look at the technology. Look at what
Mhm.
happened. We have we have
Yeah.
lost control, and we're frustrated
Mhm.
because we were under the false belief that we could control everything in our life. But that's not true, is it? As we see today, we have very limited control over, what our life is all about. And I think the most important piece that we forget is that, you know what? The only thing that I can control is my attitude. And you talk about that in the beginning of your video. You know, really, when we think about the challenges in our lives, we have to reflect on, you know, have we been here before? Maybe not at this level of crisis, but we have. We're all humans and we do make mistakes, we fall, and we have to realize that yes, it's challenging, it's frustrating, I get angry, I lose control, I feel hopeless. But the only person that you have control over is yourself. And so the first thing you would do is to take care of yourself. Identify where that stress is coming from. And when you identify where it's coming from, then ask yourself several questions like, is it stress that is controllable or is it uncontrollable? Is it something I can do something about or is it something that I can't do anything about? If I can't do anything about it, then is there anyone else out there that might be able to help me? I mean, we have an array of resources out there on the internet. We have an array of resources with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues. And so it's not like we're in this alone. And I think that trying to dissipate that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness is key to overcoming stress. Is realizing that, you know what, I do have resources available within myself because when I notice that stress is coming up for me, I can go within and I can find out where it's at. I can find out, oh, yeah, I notice that it's causing me a lot of stress because I'm eating so much and I'm gaining weight, and that weight doesn't help me with my disposition and the way and my outlook on life. And so maybe I need to like curve back and stop eating so much and deal with it. And I can deal with it in a number of ways because I have resources within myself that helps me to deal with the stress. And that might be, for me, I meditate. I'm a meditator. And so I stop, I pause, and I start paying attention to my breath. And then the next thing I do is I notice, wow, what's around me, you know? And when you can
Mhm.
look at life with those kinds of eyes, that, oh, yeah, gosh, I forgot to notice that, oh, I've got two zucchinis growing in my garden. Oh my gosh, how wonderful that is. And so then you start looking at things with a more positive outlook. And when you have a more positive outlook, we know that our brain then functions more easily and it starts to problem solve and it starts us on this roller coaster of okay, I can see possibilities for the future. But when we engage and we really have a romance relationship with stress, then negative stress, then we find that we're constantly abusing ourselves, we're abusing others, and we're not really in that framework of, can I solve this issue? How do I deal with this and how do I deal with that? And then it becomes this nightmare of an experience for us. And so I guess the thing that is important during this time of crisis is to really pause and really take a look at all the things that you can be grateful for. I'm so grateful that I have a phone. I walk around
Mm-hmm.
I walk around life feeling grateful, you know. Despite of all of the challenges that I face, I think that if you can look at life through the eyes of possibilities, then you can find solutions to your problems. And then you'll find that, oh, yeah, all this worry about, oh, will my child be going to school or not going to school? Well, is it important now? This is what, July? Do I really have to worry about that in July? No, I probably don't, because guess what? If you watch the news, you'll notice that most people out there don't know what to do. And so worrying about it is kind of foolish, isn't it? And so you want to make sure that you spend your time, paying attention to the energy within your body rather than spending time worrying about what to do. Because the energy in your body is like a great, great compass that tells you, oh, am I feeling good or am I feeling bad? Because if I'm not feeling good, or if I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling indifferent, all of those will depend on the choices that I make the next second. And so you want to always make sure that you're trying to come back to home, and your home is yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you check in, and then you give yourself that nurturing that that you need so that you can move forward and do the next thing. And so one of the
How do you think parents could, I'm sorry, the anger? I just wanted to quickly ask you about a lot of parents. It's not just what's going to happen. It also is, why don't we, that anger? How do you think people, I love how you said to go within, to just like not worry about it. But what about like just really strong anger at this whole uncertainty?
But anger is a wonderful emotion to have because it warns you that something is not right, right? Anger is
Mm-hmm.
the way that lets
Mm-hmm.
us know, oh, something in life is not working out the way I want it to. And so, yeah, it's okay to be angry, but then you have to ask yourself, okay, what does my anger serve? How does my anger serve me? you know okay, so I'm angry, so what? Does it solve any problems? No, it does release some of that anxiety that I feel, but it's only temporary. And then it's temporary because then I feel guilty because my kids saw me being angry and I started yelling and screaming. And so it becomes this domino effect on our bodies, on our minds, and everyone around us. So yeah, it's okay to be angry. I think that we have to give ourselves permission right now to realize that we've lost a lot. We have lost a
Mm-hmm.
lot the last several months. We've lost the life that we used to have, and that is huge grieving, because we'll never, ever be able to go back to that life again. Everything will be different, right? And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we're actually going through a grieving process. And the grieving process is, yeah, we're going to deny it. We're going to get angry. We're going to make deals with whoever's up there. We're going to get depressed. And all of those feelings are very legitimate, and we should have them. But do we have them for a second, 5 minutes, an hour, a week, months? The thing
Mm-hmm.
that we forget is that we have the choice to decide what we're going to do. As human beings, the difference between us and other species is the fact that We have choices. We don't have to be angry all the time. We have a choice of moving away from anger, you know? So you get to choose what you want to do in life. You know, our attitude is one of the most important things. Whenever we're going through any kind of crises, whether it's good or bad, our attitude or our relationship to whatever is happening is the key. So is our attitude one that's positive, negative, or neutral? You know, and you get to choose. You know, that's where I think people fail to remember is that, yeah, it seems like it's happening to me and only me, but you know what? It's not. Yeah, it might be, you know, yeah, COVID affects me, but I get to choose how I'm going to respond to COVID, how I'm going to respond to technology not working. I get to decide, oh, how much energy or how much stress or how much discomfort I want in my body or in my mind or in my thoughts or in my life, because I know whatever I choose, I'm going to affect a lot of other people by that choice. And so, key principle is you have a choice. Everybody has a choice. You don't have to stay stuck. It's okay to feel that sense of loss because we have lost a lot in this crisis. Everybody has, you know, some people more than others. Some people have lost, you know, mother, father, you know, those are huge, huge losses. You know, we just, you know, for me, I just lost, you know, not having to go into restaurants. Well, big deal. You know, so you have to gauge your emotions, and you have to, you know, check in with yourself and ask yourself, okay, how much energy do I want to spend being in this state that I'm in, and how does it serve me? How does that state serve me? Does it serve me to be angry because then I can blame other people? And in blaming other people, I don't have to do anything really, you know, because it's not about me really. I don't have to change myself. They have to change themselves to make my world look great. So if you're looking out there and thinking that everybody else has to make your world a better place to live, then I think that you're going to be into a lot of suffering. And so the way out of suffering is to really take responsibility, responsibility for yourself, responsibilities for your attitude, responsibility to how you're going to react whenever a challenge faces you. And I can tell you from the work that I've been studying, and you know this because you study the brain really is connected to your body. And sometimes we have a disconnect between our mind and body and soul, and we lose sight that, yeah, everything is connected. And so when we're stressed out, if your kids are stressed, if you're stressed out, your kids are going to feel it, first of all. Okay, so as parents, we know that if you're stressed and you're feeling overwhelmed, guess what? You try to conceal it from your kids, but you know what? They know it, they feel it, they sense it. We have within us this wonderful sensing ability where we can pick up other people's energy. And so they don't have to say anything. They don't, we feel it. I mean, you know, and so they, knowing that you're stressed out, they're going to be stressed out. And so when we're stressed out, what happens? We build up too much cortisone in our brain. And cortisone is the hormone that really is the flight. What is it?
Flight, fight.
It's that, yeah. Flight, flight, freeze, right. Anyway, it's those responses.
Yeah, like the caveman days. You're either
Yeah,
gonna run or you're gonna fight, and we just which do you
exactly.
choose?
Right. And so it brings up that hormone, cortisol brings up that response within our body. And so we're either going to fight against something and we're going to resist it. And when we do that, we're going to cause ourselves more pain, or we're going to fly away from the situation and pretend that it doesn't happen and let everybody else figure it out, or we'll just freeze and not do anything and get depressed and so what we want to do is to invite oxytocin, which is another hormone. And we know oxytocin is the hormone that actually is what we call the love hormone, because it brings out this feeling of, oh yes, there are so many possibilities in life. And you know that when you first fall in love with something, you have this wonderful experience with it, and then you want to have it all the time and you want to feel good. And so the way out of the stress is to invite more oxytocin. And from what I know from research, is that the best way that we can get oxytocin into our bodies is through our relationships. And so when I talk about relationships, the first relationship, the most important relationship that you can have and you have control over, and that's the only relationship you have control over, is yourself. So I invite you to find out what kind of relationship do you have with yourself, you know? And since we're in a crisis, ask yourself, what is my relationship with this crisis? Am I exaggerating it? Am I being okay with it? Am I being depressed about it? So ask yourself those kinds of questions. And so the only thing that you can control is yourself. And so I invite you to have a great relationship with yourself. And to have a great relationship with yourself, you have to really go inside. Your answers are not going to come from the outside. It's going to come from the inside, because the inside knows what's right for you. And when you do what's right for you, then you know you're going to do what's right for everybody else. And so most of the times we when we're stressful, we look outside of ourselves, and when we look outside of ourselves, many times we're disappointed because the people out there don't really know us, and they don't really know what's good for me. What's good for me is not necessarily what's good for you. And so you have to uh, invite yourself to have a good relationship with yourself, because once you have a good relationship with yourself, then you'll be able to have all kinds of relationships, good, bad, and ugly. You'll be able to handle it because you know yourself and you know what you want, and and so I guess that's one of my easy ways of talking about stress, is that yes, we talk about stress and then we turn it into this ugly monster. Well, it's not ugly. It's only ugly if you choose to make it ugly. It's only stressful if you choose to make it stressful. You have a chance to choose in your life the decisions that you're going to make. And so having a good relationship means that you take care of yourself. You do things that calm yourself down. You find when stress starts to happen within your body, you have a list of things in your mind that helps you to calm yourself down. I know that one of the techniques that I learned long, long, long time ago in NLP was when I was feeling stressful or doubtful, I would take my hand, and in the middle part of my hand, I can't do it because I'm holding the phone, but I would but it would anchor myself in this part of my body, and every time I would touch it, I would just kind of rub it and soothe myself. And so what you have to do as a mother, or even if you're teaching your child, is to find many different ways where you can self-soothe so that stress doesn't overtake you in a negative way. Because some stress is good. I mean, I was stressful about this call, but I use it in a positive way. But
That's what I've learned from you. It's like, okay, Yoli's not coming on, but you know what? Like you said, it is life, the disconnection.
yeah,
We just had a little mini disconnection, but we reconnected,
right,
and
yeah.
temporary thing.
And I love the way you handled it, rather than looking at it as something like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to cancel everything. You just moved right along, invited your friend and I thought, perfect. This is a perfect example of how we deal with stress, is that we become more creative. you know? And that's where I'd like to invite parents, as well as people out there, or students, whoever you're
Hmm.
talking to, because this relates to everybody, is to really
Right.
look at the challenges that we're currently facing in our life, whether it's COVID, whether it's, trying to get food on the table or trying to figure out what school is all about. I would like them to have this wonderful relationship with themselves so that they know how to cope with it, you know, because you're the only one that can control that. You can't control me. You can't control the schools. You can't control the teachers. You can't control, anybody but you know? And so
Exactly.
that is what I would say, is that the first part of dealing with stress is to really find out where in your body does it locate, and then give yourself a chance to um, either meditate, pause for a second, deep breathe, find a soothing activity that will calm you down so that your mind becomes more creative. And I always tell you,
Hmm.
it's by being curious, by being creative, that's what helps us overcome some of the obstacles that we have. And when we have too much cortisol in our brain, everything stops. And we always
Yeah.
find ourselves in the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And it doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve our it doesn't serve our communities, and it doesn't help us to become part of the solution. It just makes us part of the problem.
Yeah. I
So,
love that.
so
Thank you so much. I mean, that's exactly, I mean, the curious, you've always taught me, yeah, to be curious, to be, right, just creative, which is why I've learned a lot from you over the decades.
uh-huh.
And I Yoli and I are planning on doing a webinar. Hopefully, technology will work. We're probably going to do it on Zoom, and that way it doesn't have to be live. But I think, yeah, parents need a resource, but they also need to learn how to trust themselves, right? Like you said, we can't search for the answers outside of ourselves, but know that you don't need to be a teacher. We were just talking about it earlier, right? You don't need to be a teacher to teach your kids valuable life lessons.
Right.
Can you just share in a couple of minutes how you were saying that parents don't realize what they've taught kids up until, I mean, even before they're 5, all the things that they've taught kids. Remember how we were talking about like walking, or
Well, I
you
think
remember like what
right,
parents.
right. I believe that the thing that we should focus on more at this time in our life is not about the academics. The academics will come. Okay. I
Yes.
think that what we have discovered with this pandemic is that we as a nation really lack social emotional resilience. And so your job as a parent is really to teach your child how to be socially and emotionally resilient. And what does resilient mean? Resilient means that, oh, anything that's a challenge for me is not going to be a problem, because I'm going to dust myself off, and I'm going to stand up with my head up tall, and I'm going to be able to conquer whatever is in front of me. And so, as a parent, you've done that a billion times, right? In your life.
Hmm.
So you can use your own experience as ways to teach your child, oh yeah, when I really don't know something, this is what I do. You know, I used to, as a classroom teacher, I would purposely sometimes make mistakes in the classroom so that I could teach my kids how you deal with mistakes. They usually go, oh my gosh, you made a mistake. And they think I'm going to just, hide under the rock and be embarrassed by my mistake. But instead, I say, oh my gosh, yeah, I did make a mistake. So let's see, oh, how do I figure this out? And I would model for them the ways in which I would problem solve. And that was my way of
Wow.
teaching them that, oh, she can make a mistake, but she's not ashamed about it. She's not hiding under the
Mhm.
desk. She's actually figuring out how to correct it. And so as parents, we constantly fall flat on our faces, but we try to hide it from our kids. I always, used to think, no, that's a mistake. I think that resilience comes from learning from others in our intimate relationship on how they deal with issues as they come up. So I really believe that as parents, we should, celebrate the fact that, hey, I can teach my kids some of the most basic things, like how do you overcome challenges, you know, like when I do something or I make a mistake or if I'm, you know, this is how I do it. But if your response is always going to be angry, to blame someone else, not remember you're teaching them that. And so is that something that you want to teach them? So as parents, we're constantly teaching our kids. Um, we're always, I mean, as human beings, we're constantly teaching each other who we are, what we are, and how to treat us. And so you get to choose how, you want to walk around in the world. I choose to walk around in the world with the idea that, I've got a lot to learn. I'm going to make tons and tons of mistakes, but I'm okay because I know that I'm going to be there for myself. And I know that I have the ability to go out there and seek information when I don't know what to do. And I'm going to learn from it. And so, as parents, you teach them social emotional resilience and you model it for them. So, you're under stress now. Well, show your kids how you deal with stress. you know, what is it that you do when you're stressed out? Is the only option yelling and screaming or shutting them in their rooms or putting them in front of technology? Well, if that's the way, then that's a very, very poor way of teaching or helping your kids in life. And so, you get to choose that I get to model for my kids how to deal with challenges, and I can show them that I am human, but I'm also resilient. I'm noticing here. I agree with that. Our children do not seem to be resilient. Yes, they don't seem to be. I think because you have to ask yourself if your child is not being resilient, then have you been one of those parents that did everything for your child? I mean, if you are, then you're doing a grave disservice to them. I think that you have to make sure that kids make mistakes and realize that those
Mhm.
mistakes are okay because guess what? We're going to problem solve it. We're going to figure out a way to get out of those mistakes. And so my whole um, goal for parents is really you are a natural teacher. If you can just remember when your baby was just a baby, you had to teach them to sit up. You had to teach them, how did you teach them how to speak? You talk to them, but did they talk back? No. But you slowly introduce words to them, then full phrases, and then you show them things. And so that's how, as parents, we overcome some of the challenges is by being the model for our kids and showing them, okay, this is the way I handle tough situations. I'm a superwoman, and I don't have to wear a cape because it's just built in within me. And so, if kids are not feeling resilient, then it's your job to figure out why. It's your job to analyze the way that you have, either as a teacher or as a parent, maybe co opted them into believing that they don't have what it takes. And many times, as parents, I'm guilty of it. I used to think that I had the best ideas for my kid. you know. And
Exactly.
I didn't want to hear what he had to say because after all, I'm the adult in the family and I should know everything. But really, no. I think that we have to realize that we all have wonderful things that have happened to us in our lives that we have learned from, and we can use those opportunities to teach ourselves and teach other people how to overcome challenges. And so, yeah, just as a parent, I think just look at yourself as being the model for your kids. Whatever you do, they're going to model back to you one day in your life. I remember as a teacher, I don't know if we have time, but I have a short story. When I used to teach younger kids, I was always so tickled because during recess, I would um, I would be in my classroom working, and then there was always, a couple of kids that come into the classroom, and they want to hang out in the classroom, and so I would sit there in the classroom, and I used to watch the kids, imitate me teaching, and and I
Did you
would
like what you saw?
and I would just get so tickled because I would notice what they picked up in my teaching style, and sometimes, and I could tell by their mimicking me, the good things that I did and the things that I needed to improve upon. And little did I know that they were picking up those things, and so we have to realize that our kids are doing the same thing, you know. Our kids are doing the
Exactly.
thing. They're watching us all the time. They may pretend like they're not, but they are. And if
Hmm.
they're acting up, I wonder if you've been acting up in the way you respond to certain stresses. And so, you have to ask yourself, if my kid is doing this, where in my upbringing of my child did I maybe react that way when I dealt with stress? Am I as guilty as they are? So, um, and I have to say that it's not an easy thing to do. You know, working on yourself and taking control of your own life is not an easy thing to do because you find some truths that are really, really painful, and you don't want to deal with them, you know. And
Hmm.
sometimes I know in my own growth, I never knew, I didn't have the resources available to help me to overcome certain things. But my default was always, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to meditate, you know. And that was what I think saved me from all of the challenges that I faced as a child, was that I had this ability to be quiet within myself and just self-reflect, you know. And it's not easy though. It is a challenge, and I appreciate the fact that it is a challenge for most people to because most of us don't know who we are, right? Most of us don't even
Right.
know who we are. And so that makes it a very challenging thing because we define ourselves based on what the outside world defines us, and we behave according to the outside world when really, you know, when you walk around saying to yourself, gosh, I feel like a fake. I do that sometimes, I feel like a fake because when I do that, I feel like I do that because I'm I'm judging myself based on how other people look at me, and I know the truth about me, right? And so
Right.
And so that's the thing that we have to remember is that the best thing that you can do when it comes to stress is to have a loving relationship towards yourself and really embrace all the wonderful, the good, bad, and the ugly that you have inside of you. And realize that, you're a work in progress, that,
Yeah.
everything changes. And so you know that you have the ability and you have the ability to have choices in your life, that nobody does anything to you unless you give them permission
Hmm.
to. And so I really believe that have a great relationship with yourself is the first thing. And you'll find that all the chaos that's happening in the world, it's like water off a duck's back. It's not going to harm you.
I love that.
It's not going to hurt you because you have control over who you are, when you have control over who you are, everybody that is near you will feel it, and they'll start to do the same thing. They'll start to model what you just modeled for them. And so I hope that this was helpful. I'm not sure if this is what your audience
Oh,
wants.
I love this. I think all of us needed to, I wasn't sure how to explain dealing with stress, and you're right, it is not a time to stress over academics and what lessons your child needs to learn and will they fall behind. I mean, you always remind me, just and teach how many kids have been taught to meditate? How many kids have been taught to deep breathe and really rely on themselves? Are we going to allow the news to dictate whether we feel peace?
Correct.
Are we going to allow, how the government reacts, how things change from one day to the next, if we know that we're peaceful inside? And that's what my goal has always been, to have inner peace despite chaos. And it's like you said, it's not easy, but I think if we make that a priority instead of making sure they know their math facts and they know,
Right.
social studies, all these academic goals right now, like you said, is not the time. And it might be the most beautiful way that education will change, because they'll learn, right?
Right.
They'll learn like life lessons that will make a difference. And
Well,
thank you.
what did they
Wow.
say? They say that your attitude is the best predictor of your success rather than your IQ. And
Yes.
so, I know so many people who have had no college and they're very successful in life. And the way they become successful in life is they've learned that, how to be socially and emotionally resilient, and so I guess that is my biggest spiel for everybody, is that you have the power to control yourself. So if you want control, don't control others. Take the time to control yourself. And
I love it.
and you talked about how it's really difficult because children haven't been trained to meditate. Well, let's not just attack the children, but let's talk about parents. Have parents really stopped and given themselves permission to just chill out? Have they given
Exactly.
themselves that permission to just chill out, or are they always on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing? If there's anything that we should have learned out of this pandemic, is that the next thing is not that important, really.
Right, right.
Right. What is important is what's in front of us here and now. And so,
Now.
one tip I would like to give parents as well as kids: meditation is not always just closing your eyes, sitting on a cushion, and paying attention to your breath or doing Om. It's not all about that. Meditation can come throughout the day. So one way you can start being more conscious of what's happening in the here and now is by having your kids and yourself, when you're having a meal, stop and just have everybody do like close your eye. Let's play a game. Let's close our eyes and see. Let's take a bite of this and just let's see what it feels like in our mouth. Let's engage all of our senses so that we can go ahead and experience this piece of fruit, for example. And that's how you teach kids or people how to meditate, is to pay attention to the moment and then have them use all of their senses to experience it and to appreciate it, because that's how we learn to be grateful for everything that has happened to us. I'm very grateful in many ways for the pandemic, because it's really brought me closer to my family. It's helped me to be more creative in the way that I reach out to them. And I think that if we didn't have the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have had that connection with my family, you know? And the pandemic forced me to think of, oh, I miss my family. Here I am way in Idaho, and I don't get to see them. I can't go back home to Hawaii. So what do I do? So it's made you and I creative, and now we Zoom. So,
Yep, Katil Zoom reunion, right.
right. And so anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to just end by saying that, yes, we have lost a lot of things as a result of this crisis, but we have gained so much more. We have gained
Hmm.
our family. We got our family back. Now they're not all over the place. Now they're here at home with us. And you can choose, you can look at that as, wow, how exciting. I get to find out what's actually in their brains. I can actually find out
Hmm.
what they like and don't like, and I can move away from all of these own judgments that I have about them and find out who they really, really are as people. And so, you know, attitude is to me, it's 10%. What is the saying? Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how we react. And so
Right.
I say,
We are reacting a lot.
yeah. And sometimes we do it just because, we love the effect of it. We love the feel in our body. We love, and so you have to ask yourself, if you're doing that frequently and it's not giving you the results that you want, why are you doing it in the first
Hmm.
place? You know, I like
Exactly.
to be real.
Thanks for the reminder. This is why I'm so glad you were able to share. And it was worth, I don't really have a time frame, and I'm glad whoever is watching, I think it was just something that was very well said, talking about not the academic stress, just stress in general, right? Like you said, it's not just for parents, it's not just for kids. I mean, can you imagine if the government learned to meditate and go within?
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine the possibilities? We might be back
The
to where,
possibilities, we might have zero cases.
right, exactly.
But because we have no control, we just, like you said, just work on ourselves and not worry or be angry at what the other people, government, leaders, schools, they're not doing but what, I don't know, they're not doing what might be beneficial to us. But guess what? Great reminder that we have the control and we have the choice on whether to choose, stress
Right,
or whether to choose positivity.
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One last thing I just wanted to say, because you brought up something in my thinking, and that is, when we find ourselves feeling frustrated because we can't control someone else or
Hmm.
our situation. One of the ways that I used to deal with that is I used to turn around and I'd say, "Oh, thank you for showing me another way of dealing with life." You know, you yell and you scream and you get irritated. Wow, that is one way I could choose if I wanted to. And so I always, I read the book called One, and that's where I got this idea where I can look at people and if they're misbehaving or they're not, I'll just thank them. I'll say, "Well, thank you for showing me another way of looking at life," you know? And I'm going to put that in my toolbox because maybe one of these days I might need to yell and scream, but I get to collect all of these, all of the many ways that people deal with life, and I get to choose which one I want. But thank you, that I'm glad that you're actually acting that one out, because that doesn't feel good for me to do that right now, and so that's how I deal with things, is by turning it around and saying, "Oh, thank you for showing me this, because, oh, I now know what it looks like, sounds like,
Hmm.
feels like, and ooh, it feels either good, bad, or neutral, and I get to choose." Anyway, thank
I love it. What a perfect way to end. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I invite everyone who's watching to choose whether they're going to act it out, react, get angry, at the whole like, what's going to happen? Or, like Yoli said, take it as an opportunity be creative, go within, and just control the only thing we can control, which is ourselves.
Because somebody's watching you.
Thank you.
And they're going to model what you just did.
Exactly. Do we want our children to go, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or do we want our children to say, you know what? It's going to work out, and I'm going to learn creative ways that don't involve being in the classroom for 30 hours a week.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Wow. I hope that you folks enjoyed that. It was longer than my usual. And this Wednesday has had 2 Facebook Lives because one was my little like, why is this not working? But I decided not to panic. I had Alexis join in. Thank you, Alexis, for giving me your time. And then we decided to do this one. And what did you guys think? I welcome your feedback. What was the one thing that you walked away from that might be helpful to know the next time you feel stressed out, the next time that you feel just very angry and frustrated and sometimes depressed? I always can rely on my cousin Yoli to just lift my spirits, give me some faith, choose faith instead of fear. That's my thing. I was really nervous today because I had no idea. And of course, in the beginning, it didn't work out. And I thought, oh, wonderful. First, I didn't have Alexis on last week. This week, I can't get my guests. Do I never have guests again? Or do I keep trying? So look, it worked out. Thank you so much for those of you who stuck it out and watch it live, those of you who are watching the replay. For some reason, I could not read any comments, so it looked like nobody was watching. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Comment and let me know if you are interested in being a future Facebook Live Wednesday guest. You don't have to be a parent, but just share something that you feel helps you, might help parents, right? A lot of people who don't have parents have excellent ideas. So I welcome any ideas that you have. Help me practice this Facebook Live special guest thing that I'm doing. And I really appreciate everyone supporting me. I'm still offering a 30-minute free strategy call with me. So I invite you to message me, to give me an opportunity to work with you. I had someone from New York work with me yesterday. She's going through, I guess, challenges with her mother. So you don't have to have a parent challenge. You can be an adult daughter, granddaughter, someone that needs just assistance, and I'm here to support you. Last thing I want to share is, I thought this is kind of weird. I have these backwards, these life purpose cards. So I decided before going on just to pick a card and see what the universe has to tell me. And it was very interesting. It is backwards. I don't know if you can see it, but it says spiritual teacher, because sometimes I wonder whether I should continue this new career path. And my card says, you heal with your classes, sessions, and seminars, which was very uplifting, and I think something that I need to read whenever I feel like giving up. So if you guys feel like giving up, just go within, practice deep breathing, watch a funny TikTok. If you notice, I've been brave creating funny TikToks with my daughter, Chelsea. Watch a funny video, dance, or listen to your favorite song. And thank you. This has been over an hour, but I hope that you gained something from it, and I appreciate your support. So next Wednesday, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I welcome the unknown, and I will choose positivity than negativity. So my question to you is, which will you choose? And I'll end it with that question. Okay, take care. Bye, everybody.